Hi, this is the September meeting of the Ross Valley Sanitary District, and I'm calling this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Dr. Mead? Oh, shoot.
Sorry, I didn't hear you. Yes, I'm here.
Director Sella? Here. Director Borstein?
Yes.
Director Axon? Director Kelly?
I'm here.
In pledge of allegiance, please. Look at Andrea.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That I'm going to adjourn the meeting to a closed session, and we will be back at 5:30. I'd like to reconvene the open session, and there is nothing to report out at this time. Item 6 is approval of the agenda, and we have some people, neither of whom are here.
They are. No, they are.
Martha's here.
Bridget,
Oh, yeah.
Just letting them in.
So, Bridget, you may need to. Well, everybody's. So, really, it's not going to change around this person.
because it's the other consultant.
Yeah, it's consent, so it's, so let's, do I, a motion to approve the agenda?
Why do we want to move?
Well, we're both on consent.
Why don't we move the consent calendar up?
Before committees report out.
Sure. Okay, let's do that.
I would move that.
Second.
Second.
Okay, we'll approve the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Yeah. Open time for public to raise issues, items not on the agenda or for future agenda. Anyone wishing to address the board of directors on matters within the district's jurisdiction but not on the posted agenda may do so. Do we have anybody here who is a member of the public? I don't see any. It doesn't look like it, so let's go ahead to the consent calendar.
Well, at finance committee, we had a really good discussion on Liverpool's situation, so I'd like to poll both of them. That would be,
Okay. That would be item D.
this I have a small part of stuff.
Yeah. And Mark Hildebrand, even up here.
Yes, it's.
He's just not showing us.
Oh, I see.
There he is. So does anybody have any questions? Finance committee also thought he did just a lovely job last time, and the same.
Or great consultant, would you like to hear from him? The great consultant. You're okay.
Okay, so we're just gonna pull D and E. More, thank you, Mark. You're lovely as always. You did really well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see you in November, I
We'll
think.
see you in November.
Okay, sounds great.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you,
Thank you. Take care.
Save you a cookie. Okay, item D.
Maybe we could handle these together.
Yeah.
That's what
Is that okay?
I'm
Good idea.
Sure, I can introduce them both real briefly and then allow our guest Bridget to chime in a little bit about the scope and just, and any general comments you want to make, Bridget, about the environmental review of the Mars sewer project. Two items on the consent calendar are for two different projects. One is item 11D would be with the task order for CEQA compliance for an upcoming project that is almost completed in the design phase. It's the fiscal 23-24 gravity sewer improvement project. And to award a contract, we need to show compliance with the California Environmental Quality Act. And for these type of scopes, for 3 mile projects like this one, it's a pretty large gravity sewer project. It isn't exempt from a more detailed review for a large impact, large footprint over a mile. This is a 3 mile project. So we anticipate an initial study and mitigated negative declaration, ISMND. It's not quite a full-blown environmental impact report because the impacts of replacing existing infrastructure aren't as expansive, but we still need to detail things. And as we discussed in the finance committee, a lot of the work is around cultural resources and biological resources in our projects. And air quality is an issue, but it is with all utility projects pretty easy. So that's the first item, is to approve a contract that's above the $35,000 staff level for approval. It's $94,200. And it includes subcontractor costs for archaeological research. And the second item is another task order working with Integral on a project that is actually under construction. They're literally just beginning this week to do cultural resource training and biological monitoring for the Woodland Creek crossing and capacity project. So this task order is for $56,478 and it includes a lot of field work, biological monitoring of issues that were identified during the permit process. We're working in the creek. So we have permits from the Cal Fish and Wildlife, Regional Water Board, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, in consultation with the U.S. Fisheries Service. So it's a lot of agencies involved when we do this, and there certain studies or monitoring that are required as permitting. Integral helps us with those, as well as cultural resource training. So when we're digging pits or trenches, we can come across sensitive cultural resources, and so that's the scope that we're asking board approval because it exceeds staff of approval levels. But this is within the overall capital budget anticipated for the project. And my final point before handing it to Bridget is I noticed the finance committee, the percentage. I did an analysis of the capital projects before 2020 and then 2020 to 2023, and the percent cost of environmental work for the projects has gone up from an average of like 0.5% of the project, so 1% of the project cost. Now it's up around 3% of the project cost, mostly due to cultural resources and an amplified, like a more expectation of the tribal representatives to do screening, risk analysis, and then some of the monitoring during construction. And that was brought on by the AB 52 law. So it's changed, it's changed our replacement of sewer infrastructure from really routine to more detailed and more disclosure of potential impacts and more monitoring. So with that, I'd like to hand it over to Bridget. I don't know if you've had any other clients talk about increased environmental costs, but I actually just looked at our actual data and was surprised that it was such an uptick. But maybe it doesn't surprise you.
Yeah, it did pretty much correspond with AB 52 and more engagement with the tribe, which we have the district has a very good relationship with the Federated Indians of Great and Rancheria, which is a thing we want to maintain. Because it makes it easier on all of us, and respects their tribal rights and all of that. So so AB 52 has resulted in increased engagement. And the only other thing I would add, Steve, is also on the projects where we have creek crossings, like the monitoring that we have this year. Sometimes our monitoring is very minimal. It's just like looking for nesting birds if we're working within nesting bird seasons. But creek crossings have quite a few other requirements from all the permitting and natural resource agencies, because there are endangered frogs, endangered salamanders, sensitive plant species, and those kinds of things that can be disturbed in when we do creek crossings. And so that raises the level of effort for the evaluation in the CEQA document, and which we don't have for the 23-24, but it does apply to the woodland capacity work we're implementing now, and then additional effort in the field to meet permitting requirements and do pre-construction surveys and post-construction reporting.
Sounds good. Thank you, Bridget. Yeah, and any questions of the board on environmental work?
Well, I'd like to note on the gravity sewer ones that Integral's fee is about 40,000 and Far Western, the subcontractor, is 50,000, it's more than our fee. And Far Western, what do they do exactly?
So on that project for the 23-24, although we don't have creek crossings, it is, as Steve mentioned, it's a fairly expansive project. So it covers a lot of area. And Far Western did a district-wide cultural site sensitivity survey, which has been really useful in helping us narrow things down for each and every project. That basically maps the whole district boundaries and talks about and uses archaeological records, cultural resource records to determine whether an area that we're working in is of low, moderate, or high cultural sensitivity. In the 23-24 gravity sewer, there are several areas of moderate or high cultural sensitivity. In those cases, the tribe has specified that they would require pre-construction borings to look for artifacts along the sewer alignments prior to construction and for incorporation into the CEQA document in terms of potential mitigation measures. So that's why you see a higher that amount, so the amount of cultural resource support we need from Far Western varies by project, and it depends on how expansive the project is and what kinds of cultural sensitivity areas that the work happens within. So it's a little bit, this one's on the higher end because of those moderate to high cultural sensitivity areas.
Yeah, thanks very much. And as an example, when I did my analysis of percent costs, environmental, one of the higher ones recently was the Butterfield Arroyo Kenrick project, which you may, I don't know if you were in, I probably told you, but we did I think it was 17 borings.
Something like that.
There was, and we had to do this because of the SRF loan required us to do this extra pre-screening, and so we went and got a permit from San Anselmo and the county to do 17 borings along the road, Butterfield Road. Didn't find anything, but it was helpful, and it answered questions of the tribal representatives and kept that project going smoothly. But it took, and Integral did a great job helping coordinate Far Western to get all that work done in a timely manner. We had a tight window, we got that done, but that project was 4% of the overall project cost. But we also had a really low bid, you might remember that.
Well, that shows their percentage.
Yeah, they drove up the percentage of the environment.
My opinion is that if I was a Stone Age person, I'd rather live on Woodside, Kent Woodlands Road, because it's right near creeks, it's beautiful.
Oh, Butterfield is near the creek too, right?
I missed the first part. If I were a Stone Age
Yeah.
person, okay. You're saying there may be more tribal.
I think, yeah.
But you may not know.
And
that-
humans in rock.
But Butterfield is parallel to Sleepy Hollow Creek, so it really,
Okay, well, that's, near a water source where they would live.
you got it,
Yeah.
The other thing interesting that we learned yesterday was Bridget's compatriot, Samantha. Her father is named Thomas Gaffney.
Or Sadie.
Sadie.
Sadie's father's Thomas Gaffney.
Yeah,
But not this Thomas Gaffney?
not this Thomas Gaffney.
Not me.
I think maybe there should be a 20.
Yeah, Sheriff and Stan thought the county named Steve Moore.
I asked if he was a good singer.
Why?
Her father. It's a family joke, none of us the same.
Okay. I have a question, Fairfax, where are the sites? This is
Sure.
occurring in Fairfax, but
Yeah, there's,
Down.
I can answer that question, or, if you don't know, Berry Trail, Taylor Street, going off of Klaus, stretch along Sir Francis Drake Boulevard, up by the bike museum. On the other side of
I'm
Klaus.
sure,
And some-
all in the downtown,
Yeah, it's kind of downtown, but up the road.
just where downtown is,
Yeah.
not near the pavilion then.
up past Perry's.
I'm not sure,
Okay.
right?
Thank you.
It's not Perry's anymore.
But, yeah, there's a little, there's a line at,
Somebody bought it, changed the name.
Bottom.
or Main which is a strangely named street because.
But it's the same.
It's a short
Same
name.
name, same name.
So there are little
Oh, okay.
pieces.
Okay.
But yeah, and there'll be more. There's one at Wood Lane. And one off of Bolinas Road up the hill up east too. So that's an easement. So these are all high risk scores relatively to the rest of the system that were identified in the IAMP. Or high risk SSO or SSO sites or high maintenance sites, places where we have to do 6-month cleanings that and maybe located in easements that are difficult to access. So by getting them off the frequency list, we save costs on that. So those drivers put together or identified this suite of pipes for high priority.
Great.
Any other questions from the board? And so we move the consent calendar at this time.
I'll move the consent calendar. Approve the consent calendar.
Are we doing, I'm sorry, are we gonna talk about 11?
We did them together.
I'm sorry, I thought I heard that, but then it's just.
Which one?
You're doing them together. I just have one
Get them together.
really tiny, kind of a clarification. You say biological monitoring. Are you talking about special species?
Salamanders.
Cause I haven't seen biological,
And the frog.
I just didn't check.
Yeah, there's a yellow-legged frog, red-legged frog, salamander, western pond turtle is what the permits require us to monitor for.
And Sadie, you also mentioned birds.
Birds? Yeah, so normally we would do birds. We're outside the nesting season, though. It's a provision in the CEQA document, but we won't need to do birds. And there was a provision to do special status plant species. That work's been done. That work's completed. We did that under the ISMND.
I vote yes. We're
I'll do the second.
Done.
Move and a second.
Okay. All in favor?
Have a clarification, we pulled those items off standing to be voted on separately.
I'm saying we should.
You can do it all together after you've discussed
Yeah,
it more.
we clarified
I
everything,
moved all of it.
so.
Okay, that's okay.
We pulled for discussion.
Okay. So all in favor?
Aye.
Good. You can.
Thanks for joining us, Bridget.
Bridget.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay. Item number 12.
No, we're on.
Let's wait for seven.
Oh, thank you so much.
Seven.
Yes, jumping the gun all the time. So there's, you have no public, so committees report out. Ad hoc facilities. Tom and I identified the facilities yesterday, and then it's dropped in gorgeous. It is amazing. And if you can imagine the dais, it will be amazing, but it's ordered everything coming in. Everything is just, when you drive by it, you'll see the trees that were a big fire danger on the side of the building are all gone now, and tremendous amount more light inside the building. But everything is lovely, including, excuse me, on the back where it goes down into into the warehouse. Lovely stairs going down. A lot of the workstations are in place and raring to go. The lights are all working. Yeah. Everything is really terrific.
Kitchen looks great with window, with the wall taken out. So
Oh,
it's
yeah.
white.
Oh, yeah.
And the
Would you take me there 10 days ago or something?
Yeah, about that.
the appliances are all in. And
Yeah, and then I saw the outside.
the ice makers are working.
Really a lot of progress.
Yes.
Surprising.
And I drove.
It looked like it's been put together, you know, the construction was there. And our next meeting will be there.
Well, now would be an appropriate time to make a little, it's gonna be.
General manager
It's
gets a
gonna be
report.
in a general manager.
I'll report, yeah, so,
Wait for that till the general manager.
Okay. Well, it does say,
Finance committee, Tom?
well, the finance committee reviewed just about the entire agenda. We spent, you know, most of our time on the consent calendar, which unfortunately doesn't get as much on. But I did want to put one thing with our finances. Kind of interesting, we're in excellent financial condition, as you all know. But it's surprising, so far this fiscal year, we have raised $140,000 or so in revenues. And we have spent $8,470,000. But we're still in good financial condition because we plan ahead. So that's to be expected, right? We don't get any money until November, December. So we've got to carry.
That's right.
and
Anyway,
summer tends to be a high capital expense period.
That's right.
and I urge the board, the way to check this is to go to pages 8 and 9. Out either budget, you know, monthly budget, and you calculate like we're 2 months in, so that's 66 2/3%, and just go down the list of expenses and see where we are and see if they jive. And that's what we did. And we found out that a lot of the salaries and benefits were over 16.67% because we paid the unfunded PERS liability up front, and it got added to it. So it's all good.
It's all-
All good.
Yep.
No, thank you.
Sure.
It's.
Uh,
CMS commissioner.
When we get a closed session, which I would tell you about, except I go to jail, so I won't. And
I don't
then
think there's criminal penalties, but that's the.
we took a look at our OPEB funding plan, which we do at least once a year. And of course, it's off again, which, you know, but we're adjusting to make arrangements, because again, we took out a pension loan, pension obligation bond. And so that's in fairly good shape. And then we look at our grid classifier replacement project. We're going to replace the grid classifier, and there's a grid is taking solids out. There's a lot of different options for that now, and really it's a study on which is the best. We haven't made a decision, and so we'll get the results of the study and look at that.
That was expensive.
They are.
The more expensive one, though, it has, the benefit is that when you wash the organics off the grid, when it cleanses the grid, that gets fed into the digester and creates energy. So, yes, it costs more, but
Energy.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Sure.
yes.
As you know, the nutrient thing has been in the news more about the bay nutrients for algae growth. You guys all talk about that, or is it reported? Is it an issue
Nutrients.
for our
Funded.
CMSA?
Yeah, we do talk about that, and we know it's probably coming. It's my understanding is the big problem with nutrients in the bay is really in the South Bay, because there's really no tidal flow. And up here in this end, we have huge amounts of flow coming back and forth every day. So we will be affected, but perhaps not to the extent that the people in the South Bay. That's my understanding.
And the finance committee, Central Marin, provided, that's the reason that there's 4% increases. And there's about $600,000 funding, I'm right on that number. So yeah, we're anticipating that we're gonna get stuck with nutrients for 5 years. We're anticipating some of it. Even though the problem is South Bay, they're probably gonna
They'll
enforce
enforce
the
something.
entire bay.
Yeah.
Or, yeah, they make us do something.
There was a study, so that was on the agenda a few meetings back.
Okay, I'll check it out.
I mean, you call Jason, I'm sure he can tell you exactly when that was off the top of his head.
Yeah, it's really bad. I didn't realize how bad it is, but it
Well,
kills the
it's
fish.
red
really
lung.
bad. Yeah, yeah.
The bad thing too is it's very expensive.
Yes,
And you really can't quite treat it. It's very difficult to skim and whatever else they do from what I've read. So,
For the algal ones.
yeah. Great, thank you.
And I don't think that there was not a North Bay Watershed Association last month.
Yes.
So verbal report by our general manager.
Great, okay, so I want to give an update on 1111 Anderson. This has been a fast moving issue just in the last couple of days, so, we've, got a revised site work schedule. And then we went back and forth a few times to figure out and fine tune the contents of that, so let me just walk through a couple of things. So the move-in is postponed. As you heard from the facilities committee, the interior is really nearing finishing, you know, and it's really coming together well. So we've been spending some time trying to figure out, you know, is there a way to do some functions sooner or not? And as we went through this, there's certain site work that needs to happen before we move in that's related to security fencing, really. It comes down to that for us to feasibly relocate, we have to have, give you an example from Kerner, we have the high value TV vans, we have the CCTV crew. And we can't just move them over to 1111 because we don't have a place for those vehicles to park. We thought, you know, even as of a few days ago, looking at the original schedule from late August, that things could come together, but they're not. There is a couple of supply chain issues with pavers that will go in front of the front door, and as well as fencing, and certainly the decorative fencing out front, which we could put temporary fencing to go with the security, the gates and everything. But in the end, we recommend to hit the pause button a little bit on the move-in date. And so we took a real hard look at that. The contractor was responsive in the last 24 hours to give us an updated schedule that we went back and forth with them on. And so just to give you a couple of updates. So the warehouse that we have storage in, that's a hard date. The end of October, we are out of there, right? We don't want to renew the lease, right? So we have already begun moving that into the locations like the pump station location, some at the landing, and we're going to move into the 1111 warehouse when we have, you know, egress established, when things are paved, you know. So we're on top of that. That's something that Paul's doing a great job managing and his staff. The paving, we got the latest on this. The paving is scheduled now the week of October 16th. And that is the week of the board meeting. And so as much as we want to do the first board meeting next October 18th, we're envisioning the paving being fresh that day and trying to figure out how to park and get into the building, and then, you know, all those nice new carpets.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So, you know, just trying to be realistic and plan for, you know, from a practical standpoint, we don't recommend we have the October board meeting at the new building.
Unless y'all bring sticks and you want to write your initials on the concrete as you go. Your dog.
Does this mean the facilities committee is resurrected for another month?
I believe so.
Oh, and maybe.
We've waited this long. I think we should wait one more month.
So we will say though, that we think we want to make a tentative plan for the November board meeting. It's November 15th. And we're making, since folks want a date, you know, we're recommending December 4th as our official move-in date. So it's a 2-month delay. And that gets us past Thanksgiving, because, you know, there's also the issue of Thanksgiving, even though maybe we could do mid-November. You're just being conservative, right?
You could cook the turkey there. We check the ovens. And
Just saying, yeah, well, you know, and then this is fluid, right? When the future comes, then we will be looking for opportunities. I don't, you know, I think it's best for the public process not to plan for October board meetings, even though it could have, you know, it's.
Yep, the landscaping needs to be done as well, right?
Well, the hardscaping at least needs to be done in order to have proper egress from the building. And in fact, a temporary certificate of occupancy would be contingent upon safe egress from the building. So we're also working with the city of San Rafael's building department to get the TCO, which, you know, we don't anticipate an issue with it, but you can understand if you had an opportunity to drive by.
I called Steve, you and I, when did I call you last week? I was like, this is no way.
It's
There's no way.
He was skeptical.
It's
Yeah,
really a dust storm.
I know, I just.
now.
Well, I don't mind that
GPS with me right in front of it today.
Right.
Yeah.
The sign, they've just ripped out the shrubs.
Everything's ripped to shreds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's getting, yeah, it's all leveled. Now, it's amazing how fast paving happens when it happens.
Right.
So, but it's just not, yeah, it's not lining up, and there's some drainage issues. You know, for instance,
How's our lateral?
when you learn, we got that all fixed.
Yeah, that's right, we did that already.
We did that already, but the drainage, was interesting. When we were doing the lateral, we were fighting drainage issues. And then what we learned just this last week was the roof drains were plumbed to a French drain. Which was clogged with the tree roots, that all those trees on the building. So, for a long time, the water's just been sitting there, you know, against the building at subsurface and just not draining very fast. So, good thing that we designed the site work
Yeah,
as
just
we
put
did.
those gutters into the sewer. When we call it
Fortunately, there is a drain inlet, you know, and there's a good drainage solution that we're going to build, you know, but we identified this. And we wouldn't design, you know, roof drains to a French drain, you know, I would say have a French drain, have it separate, and then have a hard.
yeah,
And then have.
because they overload it too.
Yeah, and have it separate. Well, that's the way you do it. But in 1985, maybe they have a different standard back then, who knows? So, yeah, I'm sorry to bring the news that we had to delay, but it's going really well. You know, the quality of the work when it's done is excellent.
Has anybody looked at a way to clean those windows from the outside?
They will.
I'm gonna wait until we're kind of done on the outside.
Oh, sure.
I have a new canopy coming. The canvas is actually here, but they don't want to install it because all the dust and dirt. And I'm gonna start looking into that. So most likely we'll get somebody on a lift and a pressure washer and have a service come out, pressure wash and clean all the windows.
Yes, as well as the paint. I mean, you know, the painted area. It's like a stucco
It's
with.
a color coded stucco, yeah.
Right, so really, you don't repaint that, you just wash it. So that will help. Yeah, that's really the main thing I want to report on. And, you know, we'll work, we've already begun the process of unwinding a little of our moving plan, but it's not a terribly long list of things. One of them is to ask CMSA if it's okay for it to be. I just wanted to make a note. Today actually was the day when I attended a recycled water meeting in Oakland. It was convened by the Regional Water Board, and there were over 50 people there from different wastewater and water agencies. Some of the same folks that were involved in the Bay Area One water discussions. And so we're talking about advancing water reuse in the Bay Area region, and talk about a lot of case studies. And I was able to share informally some of the discussions we've had, you know, with CMSA and SASM and MMWD, and some of the successes we've had in the north part of the county, but not extensively, just in terms of dialogue with different folks, what works, what are some of the successful water recycling projects that have been implemented in the Bay Area? What were the ingredients to that success? So it was a good dialogue, and two folks were there from Marin Water District. So
That's a change, right?
okay. You know, actually, yeah, they do have a great project at Los Colinas, the North County. There's opportunities here, so we'll continue the dialogue. And that's all for my report. Thank you.
Yeah. Verbal reports, well, let's go. No, we have to do verbal reports by board.
No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, number 10. Verbal report by board members and requests for future items. Anybody from the board? No.
I guess I have a little report. Steve and I had a lot of conversations last week.
Yeah, right.
I guess I would call it the Fairfax food folly, is what I'm beginning to label it. The Fairfax food folly. So a constituent came to me, animated. There was an odor coming from the sewer. And so I was perplexed. I even got Steve on one. So you could smell it off and on, but you really could not grasp exactly what it was sewer or what it was. I immediately called Steve because it's a sewer something we need to get in there, right? I learned a lot. There's mixed stop. What other agencies?
There's a Marin County Stormwater Pollution Prevention Program, which is really the first place to look for illegal dumping in storm drains.
So the person told me he had gone to the mayor, manager, and the public works person and couldn't get any answer. So that's why I figured I gotta figure something else. Is this
None
really
of
up?
those people have anything to do with this.
But the town is responsible, is what I learned.
Right, and what was confusing was the report was a smell of sewage.
Yeah,
And so, okay, well, we should, check things.
sewer people.
And we, in our website, in our video, we say, call us first, but not necessarily, I mean, and so to clarify that, if you see water on the ground and it smells like sewage, call us first, right? But the problem here was there was no water on the ground. There was just the smell. Right? And so, and I'm not sure if we've really discovered the exact source, but
The restaurants are dumping in their food waste into that drainage sewer or the storm drain.
Which restaurant is this?
And it sits there and rots and becomes rancid and smelly.
there you go.
Fairfax,
I understand, that's town.
that'd be a sushi restaurant, I think is where most of it's coming. The sushi restaurant.
Not, the fancy sushi restaurant, the one that's on the
So
Michelin
let me just, the reason I asked that is,
Village Soccer.
I had, one of my clients is Lotus
But I don't
Cafe
wanna give
on
them that name.
Fairfax Creek.
He said other
There was
restaurants.
a sewer or something at the building next to them that always stinks. And I called the town manager of Fairfax and I got the same response you got, right, or something.
But
You might wanna look at that.
well,
You called the manager?
Is it a store?
No, no, it's not a work truck.
Or sewer?
Is it a
No,
store? or-
because it's a building issue. To me.
Yeah.
It's lateral, yeah.
So that's why Mark Lockaby, the building inspector, said, I'll deal with it. I'll deal with it. And so it was a huge circle of learning, dealing with the upset constituent, town people. I want to commend us because not only did you get out there and really looked around, kind of like one of those bloodhound dogs, you were just out there going out thinking, if anybody's gonna find it, Steve did, and I think Paul, you were part of it,
Well, yeah.
and
Paul.
Philip,
And
and who else?
John Vogel.
Yeah. So it was really, to say it was a little fun, but I learned a lot, so thank you guys and girls.
It was, mine is, I like your sense of it, it's somewhere between the Barefoot Cafe and Lotus Cafe, which is,
Oh. She's saying it was Lotus.
and that's at 1912 Sir Francis Drake.
But I'm finding out it's happening more common than a lot of us know, and I think it builds up in time. I don't know why they're
Not uncommon.
why don't they find them?
throughout the jurisdictions in Marin County.
I didn't-
Experienced it.
They need to hire an agency to pick that stuff up, right? They're supposed to gather and not dump it.
Well, it was supposed to advise the restaurants of that, of illegal dumping.
Okay.
There was a, behind Marin Catholic, a bunch of years ago, there's a bike path. Which goes from basic school to the back to the
Yeah.
park over there.
Yeah.
And there was a terrible smell back there. And we went investigating it, but it turned out it was stormwater, that there was just bad stuff. Dead animals or whatever, up the stormwater, and it had nothing to do with us.
Well, the restaurants in particular, you know, if they're not educated, you know, they don't know, you know, they'll come out, they'll take their like, the mats from the kitchen and they'll hose them off out the back of in the parking lots, for example. And they're full of grease and, you know, meat and food and other kinds, of, you know, restaurant stuff. And then they're going into the storm drain. And then over time it accumulates and causes.
And CMSA was involved. I did not know that would happen.
Yeah.
Because they have an environmental person.
CMSA, well, we have a contract with them to implement the fog inspection program with the food service establishments, you know, which include the restaurants and some grocery stores and delis and that sort of thing. So, and they contract with most, if not all, the sanitary districts in Marin County. So CMSA has staff that they make available for that. So they were very responsive. They, before we could really even corroborate with them, they were out in the field and helped as well, you know, very helpful. So,
Yeah,
but
we
they
work
regulate
really,
to the sewer, not to the storm drain.
yeah, we work really closely with Canary Joe and Aerosol and Kyle. They do, like, the flushing crews are seeing a lot of grease in certain areas. We'll send them the maps and pictures of what we're seeing, and they'll actually go and start inspecting the restaurants in the area. And last month we found 2 restaurants that were out of compliance. So it's really good correlation. We're able to see it in the field and report back and get it corrected, you know, so.
Yeah, so the fog, it doesn't belong in the sewers, doesn't belong in the storm
Storm
drain.
drains,
Yeah.
right.
It belongs in, you know, properly disposed of as trash, but it's compostable. And there are services to collect grease.
The digesters.
And then ultimately, they'll take them over here to the CMSA digesters and make energy out of the fog. That's the best thing.
Right.
That's really interesting, because, you know, as you know, I've been in the restaurant business my whole life, everybody washes their mats. Some of them do it in the sink, some of them do it out back.
Yeah.
But that's the only, you know.
The sink is better, but they probably shouldn't do it there.
Well, as long as you have a grease trap or a grease interceptor.
Yeah.
You know, and if you haven't installed that, then it's going right into the 6-inch sewers. Most of our, you know, they clog up pretty quickly.
No fat birds.
Right.
Okay,
Any other?
there's nothing else. Let's go on to item 12, which is consideration of authorizing the general manager to reimburse the Independence Union High School District for rerouting of an unauthorized lateral connection from the RVSD system in the amount of 50% of the final project cost, not to exceed $100,000. You know, there's not going to have this. We have some graduates of the Redwood High School.
That doesn't make a conflict for the record.
Yeah.
Thank you, Counselor.
No conflict.
No,
For the record.
Yeah. Yeah, why are we paying them for their illegal hookup? I'm still unclear.
Well,
Here it comes.
and that's why I wrote a 3-page staff report to give the board some justification on this. So, where do I begin? This connection was never permitted. We have no record of it. It's a force main from a pump station that serves San Andreas High School. There's actually 3 high schools that are on contiguous property of Redwood, San Andreas, and Tamascott. And they're on about 4 parcels. And there's not a lot of rhyme and reason, you know, a couple of high schools are on the same parcel, et cetera. So we learned of this, the Diane Lane issue is explained in the staff report. It's one of our hot spots for storms. It's a shallow manhole, and we have to actually set up emergency bypass pumping under certain storm conditions, and it takes staff and it's overtime and after hours. It's difficult work. we were looking at smart cover data and saw a pattern of, a pulse of water that looked, and we, and discussions have been, oh, people have sump pumps. But when I looked at this one instance, it happened at midnight, I said, that's not a sump, that's not a bunch of sump pumps. This is one pump that is giving us a signal. And so we did some investigation and discovered this force main that is coming from San Andreas High School, which is not in our district. It's outside the boundary of the next district. And so I can't help it. I want to fast forward because I learned something. The construction is underway, and I'm seeking the board's permission to split the costs with the high school to reroute this force main back to their collection system. I was hoping this would be within staff's spending authority, which is 60,000 for construction. This, for us, we see this as an on-call construction issue. It's going to solve an issue with an O&M cost for storm patrol. As I gave you an analysis and attachment B or C that has a hypothetical project. If we wanted to leave the force main, what we would need to do downstream, it costs $1.2 million to do a alteration of the. There's a table there, I think. That C, where I had Bill Benedetti, our engineer, put together a cost estimate for a project to allow the force main to be. Well, we need to deepen the system to avoid the overflow. So I do want to fast forward a little bit. What I learned during construction is they were putting new force main in this week, and they came across the old force main. And I said, yeah, it's okay if you break that one because we're going to get rid of it. Don't worry about that. But
Our new force?
No, the force
The original illegal.
the illegal.
Oh, okay.
They discovered it, and they're like, and then they identified it as asbestos cement pipe. Okay, so what's interesting about that?
Don't break it.
Well, no, what that means is it gives you a time period. Asbestos cement pipe was installed between 1960 and 1980, and more likely in the late 60s, early 70s. So what this revealed just only this week, because that's the nature of underground. It's like just like we discovered the roof drains in front of the French drain. We discovered that this quote unquote illegal connection was made 50 years ago. That this work was done so long ago, it was forgotten, and that's why there's no record of it. The school has no record of it. And so anyway, that was part of the mystery, is how did this go undetected? We also learned that Redwood High School and the other high schools are not in any district. The SD2 boundary doesn't include Redwood High School, and our boundary doesn't include Redwood High School. So all these years they've been doing their thing. They have a collection system, and we confirmed through smoke testing and dye testing. It's not a lot of, there's no real significant stormwater cross connection. Good. But also it all flows into Sanitary District 2. The whole Redwood, Tamascal, all the way over to the large appropriation yard is all goes to their system. So they should annex it, because they receive rates according to the Union High School District, they pay SD2.
Yeah.
Charged.
So just that value.
The last 50 years, when can we get back?
So anyway, that's some of the interesting mystery and the explanation. So attachment A shows you a map of where the current connection is and where our boundary is the black line, and the new line is going to go up William Avenue and it connects up to William Avenue probably the solar panels, the parking lot there, where the solar panels are above the parking. There's a new manhole being dropped in there, and seems to be working so far, but it's still under construction. So that's why our proposal is to split the cost, but not exceed 100, because we didn't know what the final price is going to be. Early on, it was going to be 100,000, so we split it to 50.
With Madera.
No, with the school.
With the Tamalpais Union High School District. Corey Madera's role was to permit the connection. They hadn't issued permits before to Redwood High School. So they had them map the system, and it took a while for the school district to get everything together for SD2, but they finished that by August 10th. And at that point, they were concerned about disrupting school operations, but we figured out a solution, that involved not going through the school but around it, and it seems to be working out. And so the goal for us was to get this off of our system before the wet season. And, we still will have this area as a high alert area. We have some smart cover there and everything. But we know this is gonna take away, a wild card as far as these pulses of water that come in right when we don't need them to. So I'd say, acknowledge that we need to really back up a proposal if we're gonna pay for some of these lateral. And we think that, given that history that I explained, that we both inherited this questionable infrastructure. I propose that we split the costs for construction. They're receptive to that. And I put not to exceed, just that in case, this balloons to past 200,000, there's limits to what we would offer. We have $250,000 in each capital budget each year for on-call construction services. We haven't been spending all of that money in the last 5 years. So this looked like a good candidate for us to intervene, solve the problem, and do it in a cooperative, collaborative manner with a fellow district, the school district.
Steve, aren't the estimates now like 120,000 and then about 28,000? So really the current estimate is about 148,000. And our share would be 73,000.
Yeah.
Why do we don't expect that to go up?
Yeah, we just haven't seen the final invoice. We were.
Exactly.
Well, I see there could be a change.
You get into construction, things happen.
Yeah, and it's fluid, right? Even as of the board meeting tonight, it's not complete. They still have work to do this week.
Okay.
But even though we gave them a date of September 15th to solve it, they were definitely underway before September 15th. And so, we're deeming them in substantive compliance.
You tried to get Sandy to participate.
Yeah, they did. We had a field meeting. Paul was there, in February, I think. And so we sorted through we were both learning about this. And even at that time, we didn't realize it wasn't in their district. They didn't realize it wasn't in our district. So, we had to learn about this omission together.
But they've been providing service, so it's like it, and Redwood had been paying for the service.
That's my understanding.
So it wasn't
That's
like
our
confusion about when we annexed Larkspur and they actually thought we were doing it.
Yeah, it's hard to say like Steve pointed out, it was a pipe that was laid 50 years ago, and LAFCO doesn't even have the school district mapped under either one of our service areas. So maybe it was assumed to be Larkspur service area at one point in time when the pipe was laid, but it never wound up in our service area or SB2 service area.
Yeah.
So it's just been this,
For the purpose of billing, it's
The school has been saying this.
yeah.
How long is the lateral?
Yeah,
Is it in here?
it would be an estimate. Looking at that, the typical distance between manholes, 300 feet. So I'm gonna say 350 to 400 feet.
Okay.
prevention. It's a preventative rehab of getting something out.
And I remember hearing about Diane Lane a couple of years ago.
Yeah, that's really weird because we really want to get those asbestos suckers out.
Yeah, we can, we'll abandon it in place, we'll fill it with grout. And it's inert, it's not a health problem if it's buried.
Why was it stopped in 1980? Why did they stop using it?
Yeah, I may have something to do with, the manufacture of the pipe and the,
Manufacturing.
and
Well, they couldn't use asbestos anymore.
Right, we found out what it was doing.
Well, it was probably the manufacturing, whereas.
We're told not to do them, asbestos pipe thing.
and then since, we found that it doesn't hold up real well. We've got
Some tech items.
no, that too.
That's older.
They're both pipe materials that we wouldn't specify today.
They're still part of the system, understand some of it's tech, isn't it?
Well, so we've gotten into most of it.
We've lined a lot of the tech items.
Okay.
Well, considering that it's an operational problem to us and that and it's a potential overflow site.
Yeah.
I move that we share the cost of the water test with the school district.
I will second that.
Okay. Can we wait a few seconds for me to
Yes.
come back? I'm sure. we'll- Yes, we'll-
Maybe she's gonna touch it. But we don't have to refuse ourselves.
No.
I would think. Well, you're a little farmer.
So I understand the whole concept, but one thing I didn't, ask, just curious, why is there such a flow?
Why is there such a?
Why is there such a flow?
Of course, mate.
There.
Well, it takes like 2 to 3 sets of bathrooms for the adult school. As well as we believe the area where the wet well sits, it kind of gets inundated with water. So a lot of groundwater goes right into the aluminum hatch, especially heavy rains. And it's a wet well. So it comes on at weird times. Sometimes it'll turn on during the day, other times it's the middle of the night. But when it pumps down, it's 800 to 1,000 gallons of water coming out of it now. With the system that's only 2 to 3 feet deep, so it really affects it on the back end.
So.
I'm sorry, I realized I stepped out.
No, don't worry.
Before the.
Don't worry. So that motion is second. Any more questions? So all in favor?
I.
Okay. Yeah, so. Well, no, thanks. Let's go this.
Yeah.
You need to graduate though?
About the same period that they had the Stone Age people in the woodland.
Living by the creek.
Well, I don't know, might be, it'd be a nice place to live. That's trout.
Wait, you didn't go all 4 years, right? You went to town? Okay.
Drake.
Oh, Drake, okay, yeah. Yeah, somebody who went to the Sam and then it opened and went to the Redwoods. So.
Item 13. Informational item.
Yeah, we have our monthly management report, and didn't have any overflows in August. And Paul, do you have any highlights you want to talk about?
Sure, I got a couple real quick. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for your time. I'll make it quick for you. Some of the larger highlights, pump station 15 in Kentfield. One of the large pumps has already been rebuilt, is back in service. Number 4 is out. We're expecting that back in about 3 weeks, so we should be in good place for wet weather. The pump station should be rehabilitated. So that really sets us at ease, knowing that we'll have all our large pumps operating and ready to go.
Was it just routine maintenance that was going on Stadium Way yesterday? I think that was yesterday. There was somebody down the. No, it was at the end of our street. I think going into that smart, anyway.
Yeah, I'm not too sure exactly what they're doing over there. I'm sorry. I can find
That's
out for
okay.
you.
It's just rare to see somebody on the street.
They could have been doing ARVs, valve exercising, and
Lunch.
lunch. I'll find out.
Yeah, we have a geotab.
Yeah, we can find out where they were at. The end of summer, there's a lot of paving that's wrapping up right now. So crews, this summer we created a new work order system, kind of like the supervisor review for paving. Inspectors go in on our map now and they highlight the area where the paving is and complete their inspections through that. And then as soon as the inspectors are done with it, they hit complete and it sends a full work package out to the flushing crews to let them know to go out and start flushing the lines. So you see, we were over off South Elysia and Greenbrae, Morningside and San Anselmo. We're really trying to work with the work order system and streamline and make sure we're not losing communication from department to department, inspections and line cleaning and whatnot. So, that's been going really well.
Are you catching a lot of asphalt?
No, we haven't had too much. South Elysia, we did find some weird stuff, a couple bricks here and there. But you know, the inspectors are really trying to work to make sure that the contractors are installing parachutes to catch that stuff before it gets into the system. So, it's going pretty well. Like Steve said, we're really working at the remote warehouse here on Anderson Drive. We've been in there, I don't know how many years now, Felicia and Steve, 5, 10 years, 15 years. So, you know, we found some relics in there. So we've been going through and, you know, getting rid of some old pump station stuff that we don't even use anymore, but it's sad, you know, we're finding all kinds of good stuff. So going through there, getting ready for the move out. And it's going really well. It's about 2/3 empty right now. So we're really making good progress on it.
Are we gonna have a garage sale?
Did we have a deposit on that?
We will be doing asset disposition fees and some stuff will be getting auctioned through the government, gov deal or gov deals. CCTV performing just general CCT inspection located a 10-inch line. It's actually a bypass line for us that had an unmapped open line on it. It was about 3/4 full of gravel. So it was a really good catch. It's routine maintenance. CCTV found it, and we've been working together with repair to cap off this line we found. We're actually gonna, once we cap it off, we'll be abandoning about 300 feet of old pipe that was just letting dirt and debris in. So it was a really good find. It's really good to get that out of our hair. And
Yeah, you cap both ends?
yes. Oh yeah.
That's a real interesting relic, and I think this, you know, over the years, there have been trunk lines that come down through, you know, near Center Boulevard or parallel to it. And Yolanda, I think, you know, and that comes in there, Saunders and Carl.
And Saunders and Carl, yeah.
And so I'm guessing this was not one generation back, but 2 generations back. And then there was another trunk system put in that's in Yolanda now, and then now a 3rd trunk system.
Yeah, this
that
parallel
put
to
in.
33 inch.
And so this is an artifact, you know, that shows how old our district is. You know, and so this was just opportunistically used as an extension of a lateral.
Yeah.
You know, lateral goes into an old ancient pipe from, you know, 1905. And you know, and it's just been sitting there perking away.
But it hasn't been mapped, so we find these oddballs every now and then. A 100-year-old system, it's wait.
Look at that, iron.
Yeah.
Cast iron.
No, it's clay.
Clay,
Yeah, and some of those can be terracotta.
Yeah.
And then I guess the last thing is just good spirit of getting ready for wet weather. We did a good SCRP training for all staff through the online system. Spill emergency response plan, and that gets staff ready to show up for proper response for spill mitigation, proper reporting requirements, math calculations and whatnot, just in case we have some spills this winter.
And that would include like sometimes if the house floods.
Yep. That does include that
We
as
had
well.
that at CAF, about how important it is for the staff, and generally they're the first responder. And help the people that are desperate, you know.
Yeah, I've shown them to back in the day, one of my early days, I've shown quite a few of those where sofas were floating around and people, it can be pretty heartbreaking.
I have been through that, but it was a weekend. And Eric Smith didn't come until Monday when there was no water. And reported it was about 40 gallons to the state. That was before I was on this board.
Why does a restaurant need to be
Not to name names.
To make sure they're keeping up on their cleaning
This
frequency,
graph
because we
is a
log
new,
their cleaning
feature.
frequency, they actually
Yeah.
did the grease trap to see what kind of
I
percentage
love it.
solid they're.
It tells you how much. the different
It's just
updates
it's a routine
from
that
CMFA.
FEMA data.
No, 21.
Okay, but
It says-
I was wondering about those,
Once a year.
a lot of these don't.
Those are most likely people that are out of compliance or don't have the proper traps. Cause they have to go through a permitting process if it's a newer
All
restaurant,
of
so
these.
I'm assuming those are older ones with smaller traps where they don't
Into the
check on
force
them, they just go right into the.
These are the pump stations. The lift stations, that goes by gravity, they kind of move it around and drop it gravity.
So all of these go to our.
So all of these,
Treatment plant.
Might be that
Yeah, to-
yes, all these add up to, the
From what
total
we
flow.
found, they were just dragging their mats out, just.
So,
Oh,
It's such a big deal.
I mean,
Yeah, I
between-
wonder if like- 40 gallons was my.
There's some buildings.
so yeah, so we're able to do this graph because we have the ignition software. And the Thomas over at DMS.
We go look at it.
That up. So now we have.
Yeah, send me or you wanna jot it down?
That should add up to the
It's
one.
right next
plan.
to those, yeah.
It doesn't quite, yeah, but we're working.
I think you need a little video down there.
It's real interesting to see, so you get an idea that, yeah, the number one station is gonna be
Between Lotus and-
number
and,
two
uh,
station's 13. 14 is barely number 14.
Oh, yeah. And then we're working.
Where's the
Yeah, we'll check it out, for sure.
Rehabilitate.
Okay.
Yeah, pump station 25, it's located at south of Elysium Bon Air, it's right at the corner there, it's fine.
In the neighborhood, right?
It's right in the, that one's not the neighborhood, it's right by the medical office. Right at the corner, in the middle of everything. And pump station 25. 24 is in the neighborhood, it's up south of Eastfield. So yeah, pump station 10 is Larkspur Landing. So you see, that's the quantity of wastewater that comes east of the 101. So, there you go. So thanks to the ignition software, we're able to track that more accurately. So this year is a new feature in our metric.
Does it change much?
Well, we're gonna see.
Yeah.
You gotta measure it, find out yet.
We don't know yet.
Yeah, because it
So like
could.
maybe during a storm, one of these will be.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure once we see some ground saturation, we'll kind of see what areas are getting infiltration and that stuff.
Pump station 15 is handling everything that comes down the majority of the Ross Valley.
Yeah.
So when San Anselmo Avenue floods, that's, that's all going to pump station 15.
Oh.
If stormwater's getting into the sewers.
Yeah, that's Fairfax, Sleepy Hollow, San Selmo, and Ross.
Yeah.
Are all in some part of Kentfield. And then the green is pump station 13, Green Bray and part of Kentfield. And then 14 is Larkspur south of the Corvadera Creek, except for Riviera Circle, which goes to 12, along with Bon Air near the 101. 12 is part of Green Bray. Yeah, we could.
This is gonna be your, could you do that like?
Yeah, we'll put a letter in.
I'll say 12, and that completed.
Yeah.
Right down below.
Yeah, it's good idea.
No different from 10 years ago, when we had nothing.
Yep.
I mean, like, 10 years ago, this report was a genuine flag. Not saying it's.
Oh, it's not 12. That's not a giant.
For some reason, it makes me think of San Quentin Village because we're handling our stuff so
Right.
well. San Quentin Village and the pump station is managed by CMSA directly still.
Yes.
That's right.
Do we ever think about taking that back? And what would be I remember Greg saying, why do we want this pump station that's sitting right at the edge of the bay? Like, somebody else wants it. Great. On the other hand, what do you think,
We're
Paul?
part of
Do you think-
CMSA. Well, we were
Is
gonna do
CMSA
it.
handling the pump station?
LAFCO wanted us to,
Oh.
and we started the process. It's just been,
I'm sorry. It's not on the agenda. All right, for future agenda item.
we can talk about it.
Well, we can adjourn and you can ask.
No, don't think so.
That's the spirit of the meeting. He's pulling a meeting. So there's the letter of the law and the spirit of the law. And yeah.
You can violate both.
Let me just anyway, I'm curious about that because I also think about those little
ramshackle houses. Maybe an update of the general manager.
Which ramshackle lead center?
Well, there was one that was a nonprofit that I was working for, which was very ramshackle. It's gotten just-
Thanks, somebody needs to adjourn the meeting.
Adjourn the meeting.
Okay, I'm trying to about it. Next meeting.
October 18th.
Here.
If nothing changes, it will be here.